I want to talk about something that has always meant a lot to me, um, and it's a labyrinth. And well, not always. I've only learned about it maybe 10 years ago when I was on a trip to the Bahamas. And this is the only picture I could find of the labyrinth that we were shown in a place called Garden by the Grove. And the person who was there, he had purchased the land and was cutting down the trees, and they said that he housed and educated his workers and treated them fairly. I don't know how true that is. I didn't look into it. But he had this beautiful, rich garden, and he put in a labyrinth, and he would walk the labyrinth, and really it was a path that you can't get lost. It's not a maze, and walking that path would be a form of meditation. And it's probably a lot like the Buddhists have. The Indian people often do something called walking meditation, and it's a way to be present in the moment. And they say even with prayer, sometimes we pray, sometimes we have to listen. The opposite of asking is to listen, and meditating and taking time to be quiet is a good way to do that. So it turns out labyrinths are found all over the world, even in ancient times. Let me see if I type the word ancient. You see them carved into caves and in other places. And they've been known from the Catholic Church, where they would have them at churches and they would use them as a form of walking and meditating and even of prayer, a time to be with God. And so we could make the labyrinth that's circular. We could make one that is also rectangular. There are probably multiple versions of labyrinths, but I'm going to show you the more basic one. It will look a little bit like this one here, and how to make one. And I'll also show you how we could do the same thing using a square um, labyrinth. And when we do that, it'll take only a couple of minutes, but then we could trace the path and show you how it's a really good metaphor for your goals and your life and your dreams. Um, later, a few years later, after going to the Bahamas, I was reminded of the labyrinth. I really didn't think about it, but it was when I went to Stanford on a trip with our class, a college trip, to go take a tour of some colleges. And in the cathedral there, they have a labyrinth that they set out, I believe, every Saturday that you can walk. And a few of my students walked it. Sometimes they're called prayer labyrinths, because again, you could walk and meditate or pray. I know in Pasadena, there's some churches that have them, and I walked it. It was a very interesting experience. It really was. It gave me a sensation of, really, it felt like going up and down in a wave, kind of like Journey of Life. Life doesn't go up or straight down. It kind of goes up and down in a general direction up, or kind of goes up and down in a direction of down. And so traveling that journey, it has ups and downs until we get to our destination. And we'll take a look at all of that. So here's one way we can do a labyrinth. Let me make the lines a little smaller. So I'll do one without lines first. So you draw kind of like a T or a cross, and you put a dot on each corner, and then in between that dot you make a pathway. So we're going to see that this will be part of the pathway or walkways for each one. Now it's a little difficult to write using the tablet pen, but I'll do my best. So now we're going to start right here in the very middle, and we're going to just proceed to the next space over that is in black. So then I'm going to go to the left and connect the one to the right. Go to the next one on the left, connect it all the way to the next one. Go to this one. Go to this one. So you're always going to the one on the left and then connecting it all the way around to the next available space on the right. Oh, I'm running a little bit out of space. So it looks like this is the last one. And now we have our labyrinth. So as you can see, they're not too easy to do freehand. So what I tell my students is, this is like your destination. Say you want to go to college, you have a dream job, a dream career, somebody you dream of marrying. And you start this journey towards that goal. And I would often draw a little person. Here I am. I'm going to start my journey. And so in starting that journey, when you begin your path, it feels so close. Like if we could just jump steps, jump over there, we'd be done. But the reality of life is that there are many ups and downs before we get to our destination, as we've seen. And one of the main goals is not to give up. So as we start, we're so close and we begin to travel the path, but oh my gosh, we're so much further away than when we started. That could be disappointing. That could be disheartening. It could even be depressing. And here we are again. We got real close, and then, oh, we feel so far away. And if you just hang in there, it gets closer, or you get more clarity. And again, you're so much closer. But again, the journey continues. You can't really skip steps. And so sometimes, even halfway, even towards the end of your journey, like the end of a marathon, it feels so much farther away than when you started, and it even feels farther away than whatever little you have left. You can stop here, you can give up, but really it's the time to take a moment, get some energy, get your friends. Because the thing about a labyrinth is it's not a maze. It's only one path in one direction. You can't get lost. And so if you're talking about spiritual things, it's also the same idea that there's only one way. The good things are good and they enrich us, but the bad things we call bad are opportunities. They're changes in patterns. They're opportunities to look at your value system and to adjust the way you're living and doing things. So here we keep going. Think of COVID. We had all of these difficulties, and our patterns were interrupted. How we did everything, how we went to school, how we shopped, how we went out and didn't have a mask on usually before COVID. So the way we did things, our patterns were disrupted. And you could say that's bad because it's, well, if you start a pattern and continue it, anything interrupting that pattern you can consider bad if you liked how things were going. But there are also opportunities. There are opportunities to grow. There are opportunities to look at the world in a completely different way. There are opportunities to look at your behavior and your own patterns, but more in the whole world, the whole way the world did things and their patterns. But most importantly, it's an opportunity to reflect and look at your values. What's your motivation? What's your reason? What's important? What matters? And we're realizing how much time we got to spend with our family and maybe a little bit about what really matters. And some of us really took this time to get closer to the things that matter more to us. So here we are, and we're almost there, but if we could just jump over this wall like when we started. But yet again, we keep going, and you'll find yourself a little further away. So keep going, keep going, keep going, and you have reached your destination. And so when I walked this, it felt like you were walking in a wave. You would have like get farther away, and then maybe bad things happen, maybe good things happen, then some bad things happen, and then some good and bad, and some great, and then a little bit more, and then bad. So I'll have to go through and see what exactly the pattern felt like, because at the beginning, for example, it's kind of a bigger wave, but in the middle, when you go way far on the outer edge, to me would be something like this. So the point is that the direction of our life doesn't always go in a straight line. It never does. And the ups and downs are always something to expect. But if we have some resolve, if we take time to stop and pause and look at what we're doing, our patterns of behavior, if we stop and look at our motivation, our reason for doing things, what we value and what we care about, like we've had to do during COVID, you can find that your journey is actually what they say, it's the journey, not the destination. You'll find your journey is the thing that's enriching you, that's making you look at the world differently, that's bringing you different opportunities to look at the world in a different way and to look at yourself in a different way. But the point is, don't give up. The point is that you'll get there. So I encourage you, as we're finishing a school year, to remember you're going to have ups and downs, just like your high school career. When you get to college or go to get the career, work on getting into a career or actually starting your career or a job, motherhood, fatherhood, everything. It doesn't have a straight line always up and always down. And something I actually just saw last night, there was an American Idol singer who has cancer and she has a 2% chance of living. And she sang the most beautiful song, that it's okay. And one of the things she said in that song was, or after the song, was she says, I had to learn you can't keep waiting for things to be okay to be happy. And that's an important thing to remember. We can learn in times, even in COVID, even in the difficult times, to take the time to be happy, to take the time to show those around us we love and value them, to take the time for ourselves to show and value ourselves and treat ourselves well and treat ourselves in a way that makes us happy and in a way that's respectful and the way we would want others to be treated. We need to sometimes be nicer to ourselves. But don't wait for things to be perfect to be happy, and that's something I probably can say I wish I knew a lot sooner in my life. So I encourage you all not to wait to be happy. Don't wait to work hard. Don't wait to dream big. But don't give up when life gets a little bumpy and when it feels you're not getting to where you need to be. Because sometimes where we think we need to be isn't actually the best for us. And maybe life is taking us in these different turns and twists along the way to help us better appreciate and be better at that goal. Um, I mean, it's a silly example, it's a quick one, but when you think of King David in the biblical story, he was a shepherd. And you might think, like, well, why am I a shepherd? Well, that's not fair. And I know there's something special in my life. And why should I care about taking care of sheep and animals? But the things that he learned taking care of sheep taught him to be a good leader. Protecting those sheep, lifting them, made him strong, and corralling them. Um, Using his slingshot. Who thought, something you would learn just taking care of animals would help you to defeat Goliath? So here we are, a boy who was a shepherd, and it was those very experiences that he could have said, oh, that's not fair. Why am I not, something more special in life? Maybe we're all getting towards something that is special in life. And it's a matter of a little bit of faith that the things in front of you are important to learn, to notice, to work with, and, who would have thought David would become king one day? Being a shepherd boy and taking care of sheep and using a slingshot, let alone being the lineage that would eventually lead to Mary. So it's just a thing to consider that you never know how the things that you're learning in one class or the experiences in your life, we never know how those experiences will lead to a better life or a better understanding of life or better opportunities than we could have ever imagined in the future. So have a little faith and even belief in yourself, because you all have more potential and more ability than you, your parents, your teachers ever know. And it's a matter of continuing along this journey, walking the path, not giving up, letting people work and help you so that you can have more strength to keep going and even carry some people along with you uh, who struggle in their journey. But you'll get there, and I'm so very proud of everybody. But that's my little story of the labyrinth and how to make one. Oh, and then for those who'd like, I'll make another one that is more square. So you can see the idea of how it works a little better this way, because it's going to be more linear instead of curved. So here we go. So I'm going to go down 4 spaces and across 4 spaces to make my T. Then I'm going to put the dots in the corner there like a square. So my pathways in the middle would be right here. And you could do this on graphing paper and still make it curved, because now we could just start to curve like we did last time. But if we prefer, we could make it straight lines. So we just need to do that same curve, but in the form of a rectangle or a part of a rectangle or a box. So make it linear. So we go from that one to that one. Let me make it red. Then we go from this one, we go up, and we're always making sure there is a pathway of one box. And that pathway is where you're going to be able to walk along in your journey. So let's see if this, oh, I think I didn't make it tall enough. But you'll get the idea, even if I don't finish. So the square one, you could use graphing paper and a ruler and make it a lot more accurate. So I'm at this point, I've run out of room on the top, but I have one more here, one more line. So I'm going out of the lines on the last one, and it's kind of cut off. So again, you could do the labyrinth with straight lines, you could do it with curved lines, but the starting pathway is the most important part, and there are other types of labyrinths you could make, but the labyrinth is not a maze, it's more of a journey or a path.